Hello everyone, my name is Laura, and today I'm going to be talking about tarot cards. Not just tarot, oracle, like I only own oracle cards, these are two decks I have. Same deal, if you don't know the difference between tarot and oracle, you'll probably have a better chance of finding out what the difference is if you look it up. But basically, tarot it's always like the same type of thing. Like even if the decks change, they always have the same meaning. Like the Lover's card has a meaning and the Two of Cups has a meaning. I don't know. Whereas Oracle, like this deck and this deck, every card has a different meaning. Tarot tends to be more, if you put it in like terms of someone being rude, tarot tends to be very like to the point and like blunt and can be considered rude, whereas oracle is more like whimsical little fairyland. If you look it up in the dictionary, that's what you'll find. But honestly, if you're actually interested in the difference between them, I'd say look it up. I find tarot and oracles very interesting. I don't know why I haven't bought a tarot deck. I just prefer oracle. I think they're easier to interpret since they don't have like this card means this. It's more like, well, the book says this, but you can interpret it any way you want, really. Same thing really with tarot, but it has more of like an actual meaning behind it as well. My basic reason for doing this video is the same as my law of attraction and assumption video, which is I want to explain like the psychological aspects of tarot and oracle. There's a lot of spiritual aspects of it. I won't get into that. I just want to make a video for anyone who talks shit about tarot and oracle. Because it can be a very good tool for people. As long as you're not using it to make like your everyday life decisions, it can be a very good tool. And the reason for that is the same as like a coin flip for like a yes or no answer. When you flip a coin, it will tell you heads or tails. And you're like, oh, if it's heads, then I'm gonna do this. If it's tails, I'm gonna do this. But when it's in the air, you already kind of know your answer. It's the same thing as like, oh, try flipping it again. You already know that's not the answer that you wanted. You wanted the other one. Tarot and oracle is kind of similar. Obviously, there's the whole like telling your future type of thing, but it's kind of similar. Especially if you do like general readings. With in-person readings, there's a lot of manipulation that can happen. Because the person sees your body language, the person sees how you're reacting to things, and they might try to manipulate you with that. Not everyone, obviously, but there are a lot of people who can try to manipulate you with that. So doing it with either someone you trust, like a friend, doing it by yourself, although there are some reasons why doing it by yourself doesn't work as well, or doing a general reading. Which is like a YouTube. If you look up YouTube, pick a card reading, you can find a lot of them. The reason that I find they're useful is because it kind of, for lack of a better word, unlocks something that's in your subconscious. If you're like, no, this completely doesn't make sense for me, then that wasn't the message for you. The thing about all of these like spiritual things and like, I don't know why I'm saying it like that, but like, I always call them hippy dippy things. The thing about them is that they're very useful, but the language that they use makes it so that people who aren't already part of the community can understand that they're useful, if that makes sense. The reason why I find them useful, and the reason that I'll explain to you, is because let's say, for example, you're doing a love reading. And in the love reading, it says, oh, I'm seeing an ex, and I think you have to get over that ex, or it might be someone in your past. This might be a third-party situation, which means like maybe there's the person seeing someone else or something like that. it might remind you of certain things that you might have to get over, which is also a reason why doing tarot and oracle readings can be triggering to some people, so be wary of that. But let's say that it's talking about like, oh, I see an X here, and it says that this X is trying to communicate with you or whatever. This might bring back feelings of like, oh, I actually do still have feelings for this X and I should get over them, or like, oh, maybe I should reconcile with this X because they're actually a good person. It makes you think about these things that are in your subconscious, but you yourself don't ask. If it's saying like, oh, this is someone you've never met before, it's different. Like, for example, all of my love readings tell me that I'm going to meet someone new and blah, blah, blah. And the explanations that they give is basically like, I'm not ready to meet them because I have to get over some things. Or sometimes it goes both ways. Maybe they're not ready to meet me. And that might, for some people, the whole like they're not ready to meet you might give you solace. The you're not ready to meet them might make you think, why am I not ready to meet them? What do I have to go through? What are my blockages? What is blocking me from seeing them? What do I need to do? It might make you start going to therapy. It might make you start working out to get a healthier body so that your mind can get healthy. It might make you start questioning some of the relationships you have and if they're healthy for you, if you're setting healthy boundaries. That's something that a lot of my readings have told me, that I'm not good at setting healthy boundaries. I'm starting to get better. It's things like that. And a lot of, especially the future readings, a lot of them say that it's about the energy that you're giving off, which is a very hippie way of saying your mindset is what makes you find the person you deserve, or the person, or a karmic person, which is someone that is not good for you, but helps you learn. The whole meaning of your energies will change, and in turn, the future can change because of that, because people have free will and things like that. The whole meaning behind it is that it's based on how your self-worth is at that point. If you resonate with whatever the reading is, and it's a negative reading, it might be because your self-image at that point is negative, and you think that that's the only thing that you deserve. For example, for me, with some of I was getting so many positive love readings, and I was like, this is too good to be true. And then I got one negative one, and it wasn't even that negative. It was just like realistic, I guess. And I was like, you know what? I agree with this. And then my friend who had been hearing all of these readings, she turned to me and she's like, you got one thing that said negative aspects of this future person. Why is it that you believe that one and not the dozens of other ones that said positive things about that person? And it made me reflect and be like, why is that? And I started working on myself. And now I started to believe that I deserved all of this positive things that they're saying about this future person. So it's more about that, if that makes sense. Like, you, especially if it's positive things and you might not believe it, why don't you believe it? It helps you discuss that within yourself, especially if you're someone who's very logical. Like, I tend to be illogical at some points. I'm very intuitive, but I have like a constant fight between my brain of like, no, your intuition, and like, no, but logically that makes no sense. So that's fun, and I think that's why I started making these videos. So I can be like, are you having these troubles too? Well, psychologically it makes sense. But yeah, basically tarot is like flipping a coin. And you already know the answers when you ask, or even if it's like telling the future, you already know what you deserve. And if you don't, it makes you question why you think certain ways. Like, for example, here in this oracle deck, there is number 55, which is the snake spirit, and it says time to heal. Can you... I don't know if that's focusing. Time to heal. And that's basically what it means. This is time to heal. It means that it's time for you to shed the skin, shed whatever isn't good for you. You might have some toxic relationships that you have to get rid of. You might have some inner turmoil that you have to try to work your way through. I always recommend therapy, but I'm also biased. I'm in psychology. If someone gets this card, especially if they're going through something, it might mean a lot to them and trigger them to actually get help. And if someone gets this at another time that they're like, oh no, my life's completely fine, they'll just be like, oh, that was nothing. Especially if it's a general reading, because a general reading, the whole explanation of it is that it's taking a lot of energy, so some of the things will resonate with you, some of the things won't. If it's a personal reading, they might just think like, oh, this is BS anyways, so whatever. But especially this time to heal, usually you're gonna need to heal from something. If you go with like the goddess oracle, I don't think that focused at all, but it's the Death and Magic card. It's basically talking about, it's another healing card. It's basically talking about how there's always cycles. And sometimes you have to go through those cycles. Like, things have to die for other things to be born. When things die, they go into... Like, if something dies, it will go into our earth, and then it'll help other things to grow, and to remember that everything's a cycle. Some people might get that card when they have recently lost someone, and then it's to remind them that, like, life goes on. You need to respect the circle of life. You need to... heal from this trauma, basically, because losing someone is traumatic. Some people might get that when they have just lost a job, or sometimes they might get that if sometimes even if they're just feeling sad, they might get that, and it's like, okay, it's time to get up, let's do something, life goes on. I don't want to say that when someone just died, if that was the case, but it helps the person to think, like, go deeper into themselves, think about what they can change to make their life better. And it can trigger a moment of change, basically, is what I'm trying to say really poorly. And that's it for a lot of different tarot cards. And that's why I find that it's very interesting, and it's very, not necessarily important, but for some people it might feel important. Some people see it as 100% truth. I don't think there's 100% truth in everything. Some people are gonna hate me for saying this, but even in, like, science, that is what we know right now. But maybe in a couple of years, we're going to have some new information, and then what we said today is different. Like, for example, during the Black Plague, they used to bleed people out so that they can get the plague out of them. nowadays we don't do that. We have vaccines. Like, that's kind of problematic for me to say, apparently. But that's the case. Like, not everything is 100% true. And that's just life. I think that's everything I have to say. I don't know what else I could add to this. Maybe I'll think of something while I'm editing. Probably not. Because, let's be honest, I don't really like editing. So I just like do it fast and do it quick. Don't take that out of context. Yeah, so, yeah. I'm gonna go now.